I felt the shift in the room before I even realized what had happened. One second I was sitting at the long dining table watching everyone pass dishes around, trying to enjoy a rare family night. And the next I felt a sharp tug against my throat. My niece had leaned across the table and pulled my necklace right off me, her tiny fingers gripping it like a trophy. The room filled with awkward laughter, the kind people use when they want to pretend something isn't rude. I stared at the empty space on my collarbone, my skin still tingling where the chain had been, and I could feel my face heating up as every pair of eyes landed on me. This necklace wasn't just a piece of jewelry. I had bought it with the first real paycheck I ever earned after years of struggling to keep my life afloat. It represented independence, survival, and the quiet promise I had made to myself that I deserved beautiful things too. But none of that mattered in that moment. What mattered was how easily my family dismissed my feelings, how quickly my discomfort became a joke for them to enjoy. My niece held the necklace up like it was a toy she'd found on the floor. I could see my sister leaning back in her chair, arms crossed, a satisfied smile curling on her lips, as if this were some kind of entertainment plan just for me. I felt the familiar pressure behind my eyes, that mix of humiliation and anger I'd learned to swallow since I was a teenager in this family. They always treated me like I was too sensitive, too dramatic, too eager to claim respect I hadn't earned. I tried to remind myself to breathe, to let it go the way I always did, but something inside me refused to settle. I watched my niece wave the necklace around while everyone else continued eating, their forks scraping plates as if nothing had happened. It felt like I had become invisible again, like the years of effort I'd put into building my own life were reduced to a joke that could be yanked from my neck without permission. As I reached for my glass of water, my hand was shaking. I wasn't shaking because I was weak. I was shaking because I was tired of being the one who swallowed the insult, the one who smiled, so everyone else could stay comfortable. I stared at the place where my necklace should have been, knowing this wasn't really about a piece of jewelry at all. It was about how small they expected me to remain. And for the first time in a long time, I realized I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. I waited longer than anyone would have expected from me, long enough that my sister probably assumed I had finally learned my place. Days passed after that dinner, and the house fell back into its usual rhythm of polite group messages and carefully filtered family photos. On the outside, I looked calm, but inside I was replaying everything, the tug at my throat, the way everyone had laughed, the way no one had moved to help me. I let that silence work for me, because silence has a way of making people careless. I stopped sharing pieces of my life with them. The promotions I was lining up for, the savings goals I had quietly surpassed, the small victories that were slowly reshaping my future. Instead, I became the attentive observer, the one who asked just enough questions to stay included while giving nothing away. I noticed how my sister leaned on me more than she ever admitted, how she still asked me to handle bookings, payments, and logistics for family gatherings because she trusted my reliability even while she disrespected my worth. When the next big family event came around, I didn't announce anything. I simply didn't show up. No dramatic exit, no long explanation. I let them discover the gap on their own. My phone filled with confused messages, then irritated ones, then finally the softer tone they used when they realized they actually needed me. I read them all without responding, sitting in my apartment that now felt like a sanctuary instead of a temporary stop in my life. The real shift came when my sister tried to move forward with plans I had always managed for her, assuming I would step in at the last second the way I always had. She didn't realize that I was the one who had been smoothing every rough edge, quietly covering mistakes, quietly making sure her world kept spinning. Without me, deadlines were missed, deposits were lost, and small embarrassments stacked into a very public unraveling. I didn't celebrate it, but I didn't rush to fix it either. I finally allowed her to feel the weight I had been carrying for years. It was only then that I returned the necklace. Not with a confrontation, not with a lecture. I mailed it back to my sister with a simple note thanking her for taking care of it, knowing she hadn't. I imagined her opening the package, seeing the chain lying there, and realizing that I was no longer playing the role she had written for me. That necklace had never been about its price. It had been about what it symbolized to me, and now it symbolized something new. The family shifted after that. They still talked about me, I was sure, but the tone changed. Invitations came with hesitation instead of expectation. Compliments replaced the careless jokes. For once, I wasn't the default fixer, the emotional cushion, the one who could be dismissed because I would always stay. I had finally taught them the cost of treating me as less than I was. I didn't need an apology to feel whole again. I needed distance, boundaries, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing I had chosen myself. Every time I fastened that necklace around my neck now, I felt steadier, not because of what it was worth, but because of what I had finally learned about my own value. And this time, no one would be able to take that from me. I didn't confront anyone at first. I let the memory of that dinner settle into me like a bruise that changes color before it fades. In the days that followed, I stopped doing the small things I had always done for my sister and her daughter. I didn't offer to organize gatherings, didn't remind anyone about birthdays, didn't smooth over misunderstandings in the family chat. I watched how quickly the comfort they took for granted began to wobble without my quiet support. When my sister finally reached out, it wasn't to apologize. It was to ask for help with plans she had always assumed I would handle. That was the moment I understood how invisible my effort had been all along. I didn't argue, I didn't explain, I simply didn't step in. The silence I returned to her felt heavier than any angry speech I could have given. A week later, I mailed the necklace back to her with no note attached. I imagined her opening the envelope, seeing the chain resting there, and feeling the absence of my usual forgiveness. I wanted her to understand, without me spelling it out, that I was no longer willing to be the family's convenient target. Since then, the way they treat me has changed. Messages arrive with careful words instead of careless jokes. Invitations sound like requests, not expectations. I still attend dinners sometimes, but I sit straighter now, knowing I don't owe anyone my silence. Every time I clasp that necklace around my neck, I feel calm instead of small. It isn't just jewelry anymore. It's proof that I can walk away from disrespect, that I can choose myself without burning the whole world down. And in that quiet choice, I finally found the power they never thought I had.